The new year has begun with the hope that 2012 will be nothing like 2011, when we saw tremendous economic pain across parameters. To talk about the outlook going forward, Chief Economic Advisor Dr. Kaushik Basu. Dr. Basu, thanks so much for being with us here on NDTV.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
It's clearly now not just India Inc., but analysts across the globe who are talking about India's policy paralysis, the fact that politics is taking over economics.
It is a very difficult time for us, for the world, and India at one level is the world. I mean, you see everything over here,
right.
And so the world is being reflected and we have our own problems. But all said and done, I do believe that we have seen the sort of worst of the run in recent months. It's the last 6 months,
right.
Which have been very, very difficult, especially with the industrial sector. And Europe has been teetering on the brink. So
right.
One week you feel that it's going to come out clean, and the next week you again feel that it's going to fall right into the pit. And so no, I mean, no two ways that this has been an exciting time for an economics policymaker, but exciting not in quite the ways that you would want it to be exciting.
Right. Very, very disappointing times, at least for the industry, for investors. We've seen just about everything going wrong, whether it is stubbornly high inflation, whether it's very high interest rates. Stock markets were extremely volatile. The currency tanked very badly. But more importantly, what we've really seen is that the government seems to be paralyzed. There is just no decision making. And that's something that we have no hope will change in the next few months.
Shweta, let me clarify. I mean, all of those things that you talked about, I'm sure that there is something to it. But it's also easy to overstate each of those.
Right.
I'll start with the hardest one for us, since I'm a part of the government, policy paralysis.
Right.
Yes, I would like it to be faster. And yes, it is true that once civil society goes hyperactive and there is general awareness of the fact that, yes, there have been corruption scandals, people go cautious, and that tends to slow down some decision making. You can't give hard statistics on that. But to the extent that right from the beginning I felt that one of the crucial things for India is to have a bureaucracy that moves quicker, that takes decisions quicker. Yes,
right.
And that has been disappointing, but it's not paralysis. There are things on the agenda. We are on the brink of bringing in some important changes which didn't take place, which I think will happen. Management of inflation took us a very long time, but we didn't make rash moves.
And many felt that it was way too dependent on the RBI, with very little happening on the fiscal side.
The balance questions can be raised, but if you look at from last year to this year, the fiscal deficit has been on a downward trajectory, but we are fighting it very badly. And
right.
One thing you have to keep in mind, that too aggressive a move on inflation can have a negative fallout on growth. So there is
right.
always that balancing act. And in fact, right now what has happened is a lot of our attention is very, very rapidly now moving over to the growth as the fundamental
challenge. Which needs
challenge.
to, given that growth has slipped so badly.
Absolutely. I feel that has to be the focus now. And I think, yes, all hands should be on deck vis-a-vis growth.
When you say all hands need to be on deck vis-a-vis growth, and we are seeing a very clear trend of inflation easing now, at least food inflation now in negative territory, we're hoping that the trend will also be mirrored as far as headline inflation is concerned. Are we going to see the RBI now reversing its stance? We've already seen the central bank going ahead and pausing when it comes to the monetary tightening that we've seen. Should the RBI now go ahead and start cutting rates?
If you ask about the should, I feel that indeed that is the direction in which to go. But the Reserve Bank of India has to keep in mind that, and this I'll give you some inflation figures, it is true that it's gone into negative territory, the food inflation.
Food inflation, yeah.
It will be in negative territory for a couple of weeks.
Right.
After that, it will go back into positive inflation,
right.
Low positive inflation. Overall inflation, our calculation, my division, my researchers, is that March is going to end at 6.75%.
Okay.
So we must not be too gung-ho that we've sort of
that it's
slain
not a
that
worry
dragon
anymore. Right.
I feel it is on a downward move, and Reserve Bank of India has hinted, and maybe a bit more than hinting now,
right.
that the end of cycle of credit tightening is over.
But what about the reversal?
The reversal, I will keep my fingers crossed that that is the direction in which we will go. Simply because we do need to now focus on growth and have industry putting investment back again in, so that, yes, the growth rate looks better than what it has over the last few months.
NDTV's Cricket app. Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.